What is up, guys? Today we are doing the 3 times Crimson King structure deck profile. Let's get right into it. Before we get started, as always, every single one of my videos has a giveaway for subscribers. Giveaway for this video will be a Elemental Hero Shining Flare Wingman. It is a speed dual card, but it is in secret rare, so I think that's really cool. Any hero fans out there, I don't know why. I took it out of the sleeve to show it, so I don't know why I did that, but this will be the giveaway for this video. Into the giveaway, all you have to do is like, comment, and be a subscriber. For the comment, let me know either A, what you think about this deck or the structure deck, and if you're gonna buy it or pick it up or maybe even play it or whatnot. And number 2, if you're more like seasoned duelist, tell me what other engines you think would run well in it. The other thing I would like to say is the title of this video is not clickbait, but I did have a buy one of those rounds, so I mean, consider that what you want. And it was actually the first round. So I got 3rd place out of 12 people using just 3 structure decks, which honestly I think is absolutely insane, but then again, nobody's winning anything with just 3 structure decks unless your locals has like 5 players and they're rocking like Blue Eyes or something like that with no hand traps or whatever. But these were like full competitive decks, well, except for round 2. I mean, round 2 was Mech Knights, but I mean, he had a full side deck and everything like that. So the way it went down was round 1 I had a bye, round 2 I faced Mech Knights 1-2-0. Round 3 I faced Flunder Reese and lost in game 3, and then round 4 I faced Sprite Live Twin, and I ended up winning there. And I think the only reason I won that game is because I won the die roll, so I did get to go first 2 times. So 3rd place out of 12 players. I don't think that's bad. That's actually extremely good for just 3 structure decks, and I think there's a lot of potential in here. I'll kind of mention something that I want to do as I show you the deck profile. Without wasting any more time, let's just get straight into it. So I've been cooking with this deck a lot since I released my first video. Start off with the main card. We are rocking 3 Soul Resonators. Soul Resonator is an insane card. The only thing I don't like about him is he's the only one of the Resonators that doesn't have a special summon from hand effect at all, but he does offer protection in the graveyard, and he does get you a search when you do normal summon him. And the main combo that you're going to want to try and get to as quickly as possible is going to be anything involving him and starting with him. So we have as many cards in the deck as possible to get you a copy of this in your hand so you can normal summon him and do the full combo that I will show you at the end of the video. Well, I guess I should say the full easy combo. He's our level 3 tuner. After that, we have our level 2s. Up next, I did play 3 Vision Resonators, mostly because I need more Resonator cards in the deck. I don't have like, obviously I'm using 3 structure decks. I can't add like Crossouts, Ashes, Drolls, anything like that. So since I don't really have any interruption, I'd rather just have as much engine as possible. Vision Resonator does have a special summon effect from hand. You just need to control a level 5 or higher Dark Monster, which is the entire extra deck. Unfortunately, we are not maining a level 5 or higher Dark Monster in our main deck, but it is what it is. And the reason why I chose to play 3 of him is because when he is sent to the graveyard, you add a spell or trap that mentions Red Dragon Archfiend, and there's a lot of amazing targets for that. Pretty much every card that comes with the structure deck, except for their quote-unquote staples. But he is super good. A lot of people play him at 2. I played him at 3, and I'll explain another option about that in a second. Up next, we have our other level 2 Resonator monster, which is Crimson. Crimson is absolutely key. And if you end up drawing him or have him in your starting hand, you can also send him from your hand using Bone Archfiend's effect. Bone Archfiend is from hand or deck, so it is fine. But the main thing you want to do is you want to get him in your grave and then synchro summon into Red Rising Dragon, and then use Red Rising Dragon's effect to bring him back. And you want to try and be sneaky with it in a way. I say sneaky and not hiding anything from your opponent, obviously, but like you want to try and do it in a way, big brain it, I should say. And you want to try and big brain it to where it's only Red Rising Dragon and him on the field. Like that's it, because then you can activate his effect and special summon up to 2 Resonator monsters from your hand or deck. So I like that it says hand or deck. 99% of the time you want it to be from the deck so you can get cards out in play, but we only run like 2 Synchron Resonators, and if they're both in your hand, I mean, you do have that option to special summon from your hand. And up next for our level 1, speaking of the devil, is we run 2 Synchron Resonators. This guy is extremely good, and he is a level 1, so he helps a lot when you're going from 8 to 9 or from 9 to 10. Unfortunately, there's no 7 and there's no 11, but Synchron Resonator has a special summon from hand effect as well. All you need to do is control a Synchro monster. All that needs to happen for him to be Synchro summoned is a Synchro monster needs to be on the field. Special summon this card from your hand. And then when you Synchro them off, which is kind of their whole thing, you want to get these guys on and Synchro them off, you get to target 1 Resonator monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So what's cool about this guy is, say you special summon from the deck, like say you use Crimson Resonator's effect, you special summon a Vision Resonator and I don't know, a Synchron Resonator or something, and then you link those off. Vision Resonator came from the deck and he hasn't been special summoned this turn, or synchro them off, sorry. So you synchro off Vision Resonator, and then you use Synchron Resonator to add Vision Resonator back to your hand, and then since Vision Resonator hasn't activated his special summon effect yet this turn, you basically got him on the field for free, got him into the graveyard for free, plus got a bigger boss monster. Synchron Resonator is going to let you add him back to your hand for free, and then you get to special summon him on top of it since he hasn't used his effect yet. So Synchron Resonator is absolutely insane. I wouldn't change any of these ratios, and he's at 2 because he's, you know, you don't want to draw 2 in your starting hand. I mean, preferably you would only want 1 or 0. There's no situation where I would complain about not starting with him at all, but he is needed. And then for our non-Resonator stuff, we have the boy himself. Probably the best card in the deck. It's tied between him and Soul Resonator, but they work so well together. We have 3 Bone Archfiend. Bone Archfiend also has a special summon from hand effect, where you just discard a card and then special summon him from your hand, or you can, you know, send one from the field to the grave if you really want to get him off, like let's say you're on turn 3 or something. That is also an option, or if you're facing a deck where they put a card on your side of the field that messes you up. He locks you into Dark Synchros, which is your entire extra deck, so that's totally fine. And then his secondary effect, the level modulation thing, which makes him so insane, is you send a card from your deck to grave, which if Crimson Resonator is not out yet, you want to send him to the grave. That's generally your target from your deck, and then you can modulate 1 face-up monster. It doesn't have to be a Resonator, it can be any monster on the field. So that helps you kind of look through your extra deck and see, okay, what would help me in this scenario, and then modulate levels. That way you can actually get that card that you want out. After Bone Archfiend, we are playing 3 Wandering King Whirlwind. If he wasn't level 4, I probably wouldn't play him. His level is extremely important to me personally, but his effect is, if you control a Fiend Tuner with 1500 or less attack, you can special summon this card from your hand. So every single one of the Resonator monsters, you special summon him from your hand. So worst case scenario, you can normal summon a Resonator monster and then special summon him and go into something. You would probably be hoping that it was a level 2 Resonator that you got on the field so you can go into Red Rising Dragon. But either way, 1 Resonator card and Wandering King Whirlwind is just free. He's just such a free card, there's no reason to not play it. And this deck is one of those decks where it's like, we're gonna win on my turn or we're gonna win on your turn. And then his next effect isn't that relevant, but it is extremely good and something to keep in mind. When you synchro this guy off the next turn, you can actually banish this card from your graveyard and then add 1 Fiend Tuner with 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand, so any of your Resonators. So if it's not one of those games, which I'd say it's usually like 50-50, where one of you guys isn't at a clear advantage after you go once and they go once, or vice versa. If he's used on your first turn, then on your second turn, you can just banish him and search any Resonator monster, so it helps your plays continue on if they break your board after your first turn. Up next, we did a 2-1 of the Ant package. The normal Ant isn't that great all by himself. He's really just a target for Asketer Dawnwalker, and these guys kind of go hand in hand. So Asketer Dawnwalker, if you start with him, he's a free level 8 synchro. You discard 1 card and then you can special summon this card from your hand and defense. I love all the special summon from hand effects in this deck. And then you special summon 1 Fire Ant Asketer from your hand or deck. So even if you start with both, I mean, there are some instances and cards in many decks where you want to draw one and not the other. But in this case, it doesn't matter. You can draw both and it's totally fine. He does lock you into synchros, which a lot of cards do in this deck, but it is a synchro deck. So you discard to special summon this card from your hand in defense position, and then you special summon 1 Fire Ant from your hand or deck. Now that's a free level 8. Vice versa, if he's like gone or something, let's say you used him as a discard, you already had full combo, you didn't really need this guy to do his effect and get a free level 8, you don't really need that on board. You discard him to facilitate that board that you ended up on. This guy's a level 3 Insect Tuner, and if he's not used, say he's in defense or he's face down or something, if he's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you target this guy in your grave and special summon it, but his effects are negated. So this guy kind of tags out for this guy on destruction, and this guy specials this guy from hand or deck. They work really well together, and even if the deck did come with like Droll or like Ash or something like that, I'd probably still play this little package right here. A lot of people play him at 3 and then just 1 Ant, but I personally don't see a need for it. I've tested with both and I like it the way it is. That is it for the monsters. Let's get on to the spells. This is where it gets a little spicy. For the spells, we have 3 Resonator cards. calls. Not once per turn, add one Resonator monster from your deck to your hand. Obviously, it speaks for itself and is an extremely good card. You're going to add a Resonator that's missing, and if you're not missing anything, you're obviously going to add Soul Resonator. Then we have 3 Crimson Gaia. Crimson Gaia, I really only ever use in testing and during like this little locals to just to search. But he does have a Book of Eclipse effect. When your Red Dragon Archfiend declares an attack, you can change all monsters your opponent controls to face down defense position. And then if a monster or monsters on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon 1 Red Dragon Archfiend from your graveyard. And it just says a monster on the field, so it could be one of yours or one of theirs. You can special summon a Red Dragon Archfiend from the grave. And then you can only use each effect of Crimson Gaia once per turn. But with Red Dragon Archfiend's effect, I try to get him off the field because he does nuke everything during your end phase, which can be annoying. But that means he is in the grave for you to bring back using Crimson Gaia. But honestly, Crimson Gaia, it's just like sitting face up continuous just to scare the opponent really. And I use it to search, that's pretty much it. So I probably did not use that card to its full potential, but it is what it is. Then we have 3 Resonator commands. What I use Resonator command for is if I have too many Resonators and I don't have access to like Bone Archfiend, like say Crimson gets Ashed or something like that. Or not Crimson, I'm sorry, Soul Resonator gets Ashed or something. Basically, I just swap a Resonator for a level 4 Fiend monster, which would be Bone Archfiend in this 3-time structure deck. But the effect reads, discard 1 Resonator monster, add 1 level 4 or lower Fiend monster from your deck to your hand. So this could be used for all kinds of different things. And even if you do have Bone Archfiend, I mean, having another one in your hand for maybe a second go if they break through literally everything may not be the worst idea. But anyway, after that we have 1 Absolute Power Force. This card is insanely broken. It's a quick play spell, so you can use it on your opponent's turn when they declare an attack. And then of course you can play it during your turn when you declare an attack. But what's going to happen is you're going to target a Red Dragon Archfiend you control. It gains 1,000 attack. Your opponent cannot activate card or effects till the end of the damage step. If it attacks a defense monster, it inflicts piercing battle damage, and any battle damage your opponent takes from that battle is doubled. That's a lot of effects to happen all at the same time. The only reason we're playing 1 is because it is searchable, and hopefully you only need 1 to catch that W. But regardless, it is a absolutely busted card. And then I hate to do this, but the last spell we play is 3 Pot of Extravagance. And in my review of the deck, I said there are so many things that if you got rid of all of it, you know, if you got rid of, like, say your boss monster or these 3 guys, if you get rid of that stuff, you're pretty much screwed. Not necessarily screwed, but it's going to be really hard to pull through. But in testing with just 3 structure decks, if you don't have the cards you need to start getting into your extra deck, then your extra deck is absolutely useless and you're wasting all 15 extra deck cards instead of just 3 or 6. And to be completely honest, this deck, it's like with the 3 structure decks, it's similar to like Pearly or Exorcist or something where you're running multiple copies of stuff and then just like your last 3 or 4 cards could be like situational cards. So these 3 for like 3 prosperities would be absolutely insane. But of course, Konami's not going to print prosperity in a structure deck, probably ever. Maybe in like 2025 or something they'll do that. But either way, something is better than nothing, and if it comes at the cost of randomly losing 3 or 6 extra deck monsters, at least you have options after that. But that will wrap it up for these spells that I was rocking. Let's get into the traps. First up, we are rocking 3 Fiendish Golems. Fiendish Golem is one of the new cards and it is extremely slept on because it is just absolutely insane. You target 1 monster on the field with 2,000 or more attacks, like any boss monster or something like that. You banish it until the end phase of the next turn, and then you get to search a Fiendish Chain from your deck if you control a Red Dragon Archfiend or a Synchro monster that mentions it, which hopefully you do at all points in time. But what's spicy about that is because it has that last effect to search Fiendish Chain, it actually does mention Red Dragon Archfiend, so you can search it off Crimson Gaia. So that's pretty cool. And then of course we have the 1 Fiendish Chain. This is an old card, everybody knows this card. It's a permanent, infinite impermanence, but better and worse in certain aspects. Not only do you negate their effects with this card, they also can't attack. And it's not just for 1 turn, it's forever until they get rid of this card. In the cons compared to infinite impermanence, I would say is A, it can't be played from hand. B, there's no potential to negate a spell or trap card, obviously. And then C, something that comes up way more often than you would think, is to get rid of Fiendish Chain, the monster you targeted with this card actually needs to be destroyed. So if it's sent to the grave or banished or linked away or used for an Ixie summon or anything like that, the monster's gone, but Fiendish Chain is actually just gonna take up one of your spell or trap card zones, which can be a little annoying, but just something to keep in mind. After that, we play 2 Red Rain. Red Rain just helps stop your opponent from cooking entirely, because if you get a level like 8 or 9 out on the field, or even 10, or let's say you get your 12 out, it's going to banish every card on the field, including yours, except for the monster with the highest level, and if it's tied, you know, they're both going to stay. And And then whatever stays is unaffected by other card effects. And I like that it says card and not monster. They're unaffected by other card effects, except their own for the rest of the turn. And then if you synchro summon any of the cards in your extra deck, a Dark Dragon synchro monster, while this card is in the grave, you can just add it right back to your hand. So if you get like a level 10 out and your opponent's just like hardcore cooking, let's say you're facing Manadium or something, and you see like a Vesus and a level 4 monster or something like that where you know they can synchro or go into like a really high level monster. Once they reach that point, you know, you start let them cook, and then once they get to the point where they can do something insane, or they have the required materials to synchro summon into something insane, even if you don't even know what they're going to synchro into, which actually does happen, just red rain it. Now everything's banished and they have to start all over. Then last but not least, we have one red zone. If you go first and set this card and then activate it during your opponent's turn, while you control a red dragon archfiend or a synchro monster that mentions it, of course, you target one card on the field and destroy it. I don't know why you would want to, but it can even be your own cards. And then its secondary effect is you can target one of your banished dark dragon synchro monsters and special summon it. And then each effect is once per turn. It is a continuous trap. It's really good. Off Crimson Gaia, I usually end up searching Red Zone or Fiendish Golem to set, but if you're going second and you have a pretty good board, you could use Crimson Gaia to search Absolute Power Force. That way you get that list of crazy effects when you go into battle phase and attack something. So that is something worth mentioning. I just wanted to point out what Crimson Gaia targets I would use. Red Rain does come up every now and then. If you're facing a deck like this one, where on their turn they're just cooking nonstop, just doing all kinds of stuff. It's like, no, now all your stuff's banished before we get too crazy. But that is it for the traps. Let's move on to the extra deck. In the extra deck, we of course have 3 Red Rising Dragons. Red Rising is going to be an insane extender. Basically, he's just a level 6, but you're going to synchro into this guy, and then whatever you use to synchro into him, if you used a Resonator, which I haven't not used a Resonator yet, but I should just make note of that because people will blow me up in the comments. If you use the Resonator, you just target that Resonator and bring it right back, and then synchro into something else. And then similar to Wandering King Whirlwind, Red Rising Dragon does have a banish effect, but not the turn he was sent to the graveyard. His banish effect is you banish him from the graveyard and then target 2 level 1 Resonator monsters in your graveyard, and you special summon them both. So it helps you kind of get your plays going again if your first go at it did not work. Then after that, we have the new guy. We have Scarred Dragon Archfiend. This card looks absolutely beautiful. I do run 3 of him. His name becomes Red Dragon Archfiend on the field and in the graveyard, which is extremely convenient. And then if he's sent from the monster zone to the graveyard, so if he's like synchroed away or destroyed or tributed or anything like that, you special summon 1 Red Dragon Archfiend from your extra deck, and it counts as a synchro summon, which is really cool. And then if he's sent as synchro material for a Dark Dragon synchro monster, which he is, that's the entire extra deck, you lightning storm your opponent's field for monsters. It destroys all attack position monsters your opponent controls. So he's insane. So like you go Red Rising, and then Red Rising will hopefully be used with a level 2 Resonator monster. That way when Red Rising hits the field, you just reborn that right back, and then you synchro both these guys away for this dude. Get another Resonator out, or maybe you already have one out. Then synchro this dude away for a bigger guy, and then he'll bring out a Red Dragon Archfiend, so it's just a free level 8. He's level 8, Red Dragon Archfiend's level 8, so it's just incredibly free to synchro climb using him. And then of course we have the guy himself. I only run 2 Red Dragon Archfiends, and I think you can definitely get away with running 2. He doesn't do anything too insane. If he battles a defense position monster, he blows up all your opponent's other defense position monsters. Then the other effect about him that I don't really like is during your end phase, you destroy other monsters you control that did not declare an attack this turn. Could come in handy. I haven't found a use for that particular effect yet, but it is something to keep in mind, something that does exist. We only run 1 Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. He is going to be our last level 8, but I think he definitely has his own place in the deck, because what he does is he'll destroy all special summon monsters on the field with attack less than or equal to his own, and then he burns the opponent for 500 for each one. That effect is very unique, and I think it does have a place in here. That's why I keep him. Instead of doing the 3rd Red Dragon Archfiend, he definitely should be in here. He is situational, but he's extremely good. That's it for the level 8s, and then of course our 3 level 6s. After that we have our level 9, and that's going to be Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. We run 2 of him. 3200 attack and 2500 defense. The really cool part is he actually does have a quick effect where you target 1 face-up card your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of this turn. And then if he does battle damage, you can target a tuner in your graveyard, so like one of your Resonators for example, special summon it in defense position. He's a really good card, and honestly, the fact that he's level 9 makes him as good as he is. If he was an 8 or a 10, he would be another one of those situational cards, but since he's a 9, I think he's very important. And something to keep in mind is he does say face-up card, so it could be like a floodgate card or a field spell or anything like that. You can negate a face-up card, so just keep that in mind. And then for our level 10, we are running 2 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Banes. So Bane is mandatory in the combo that I'm going to show you. It's just, you know, the basic combo. You just tribute a monster and then you target one Red Dragon Archfiend monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So usually it's going to be Scarred Dragon Archfiend because he is considered Red Dragon Archfiend while he's in the grave, but it could also be, you know, just the normal Red Dragon Archfiend. And then when he inflicts battle damage, that's a common theme for a lot of these. When they inflict battle damage, they do something. He'll special summon 2 tuners with the same level, one from the deck and one from the graveyard and defense position. And most of the time that's going to be level 2 because we are rocking the 6 level 2 tuners. Then last but not least, we have our level 10s. What I go to most of the time is Red Nova Dragon because he only requires 2 tuners, whereas the other 12s require 3 or are just harder to get out in general. This card can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, and when your opponent's monster declares an attack, you can target that attacking monster, banish this card, and then if you do, negate the attack. But then he'll come back during the end phase if he's banished by his own effect, which is way more convenient than you might think. And then he gains 500 attack for every tuner in the graveyard, and he's already at 3,500. Then last but not least, our massive boss monster is Red Supernova Dragon. Calamity doesn't work as well in the deck as I hoped it would, but Red Supernova Dragon also gains 500 attack for every tuner in the graveyard. He also cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects. But what makes him a little bit better is when your opponent's monster declares an attack, his quick effect is you activate this effect, banish this card, and also banish all cards your opponent controls. So instead of just negating the attack, you banish all cards your opponent controls. And then he has the same thing where if he uses that effect and is banished by that effect, he will come back during the end phase. The only difference is it's the end phase after, whereas Red Nova Dragon will come back during the end phase of the turn it was banished. So this requires 3 tuners to make, this requires 2 in order to make, so it is a little bit harder to get him out, but I think it is worth attempting to do it because he is crazy. The only downside is you have to, you know, wait a little bit longer for him to hit the field again. That wraps it up for the extra deck, and of course there is no side deck, but I do have a couple notes about the deck, and then I'll show you guys one combo. Note number 1 is if you don't want to play 3 Extravagance, you can swap those out for 3 Burning Souls. The only downside is Burning Soul does require you to have a level 8 or higher synchro monster on the field. So the issue that I ran into and why I chose to run Extravagance is because it was hard to get to that point. If you got a bad hand, it was a little bit of a brick deck, but I just wanted to give you guys an option. That's probably what I would swap it out for if I were to take Extravagance out. Then the next note that I have, we really want access to Soul Resonator to start. So all of these things will get us there, and if everything else fails, Extravagance will get us somewhere. That's 12 cards out of a 40 card deck that will hopefully lead us to Soul Resonator, and maximizing the possibility of seeing this guy in our starting hand is probably the best way to do it. So that's another reason why I chose Extravagance. I mean, that's a lot right there, but Crimson Gaia, you don't want to waste it searching Soul Resonator if you can avoid it, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Anyway, that's the notes that I wanted to share with you guys. Now we're going to go on with one combo, and that is going to start with a Soul Resonator. Well, I guess a Soul Resonator and a discard card. Well, we'll leave it face up. We have Soul Resonator, we don't need an Extrav. So let's say you start with these 2 cards. You're happy with your hand, you don't want to play Extravagance, so you're just going to not use this card first or whatever. What we're going to do is we're going to normal summon Soul Resonator and activate his effect. Soul Resonator is going to search a level 4 Fiend. We're going to add Bone Archfiend. We're going to activate Bone Archfiend's effect in hand. We're going to send our Pot of Extravagance to the grave to special summon him. We're going to activate Bone Archfiend's second effect, target Soul Resonator. What we're going to do is search for Crimson. We're going to send Crimson to the grave as cost and modulate Soul Resonator's level down by 1. Now he is a level 2. Immediately synchro into our Red Rising Dragon and activate Red Rising Dragon's effect. Now here's where Crimson comes in. We're going to target Crimson and bring Crimson out. Since the only other monster we control is a single monster and it is a Dragon Synchro Dark monster, Crimson Resonator's effect can activate, and that will let us special summon 2 Resonators from the deck, or hand if you already had one in your hand, but you want to try and thin your deck a little bit. And the easy way to remember this is it's going to be the 2 Resonators that we don't have in play yet. So that would be Vision and Synchron Resonator. Let's move these guys over. Then we want to go ahead and synchro into an 8. Crimson's been used, so it doesn't really matter what you do, but I send Vision because Vision actually does have a send to graveyard effect. So now we're going to activate Vision's effect. When he's sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 spell or trap that mentions Red Dragon Archfiend from your deck to your hand, which is basically everything. So we're going to activate his effect in grave, and that's where we're going to bring out our Crimson Gaia. We're going to keep that in our hand for now, and then we're going to go from our 8 to our 9. Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss is now on board. So we do have a quick effect, negate, which is really good. But we have graveyard effects once again. So Synchron Resonator and Scarred Dragon Archfiend both have a graveyard effect. I'm going to do Scarred Dragon Archfiend Chainlink 1, Synchron Resonator Chainlink 2, targeting Vision Resonator. So when Synchron sent to the grave, I can target one Resonator in the grave except himself, add it back to hand. Synchron, target Vision. He's going to come back to the hand, and then Scarred Red Dragon Archfiend, when he is sent to the grave as Synchron material, he is going to let us special summon out the boy himself. So now we have a Red Dragon Archfiend on board. These are the cards in our hand right now. Vision Resonator hasn't activated his special summon effect this turn, so we're going to special out Vision Resonator, and then go into our level 10 Synchro. That is going to be the Bane. Vision Resonator's effect to search a spell or trap when he's sent to the grave from the field has already been activated, and there's nothing in the graveyard for Red Dragon Archfiend to do. So now we're going to activate Archfiend Bane's effect. We're going to tribute one monster we control, which is why we really wanted to get Vision Resonator's special summon effect off. So we're left with 2 different cards. We can go into our level 10 Bane, and then we have something to tribute. We're going to tribute one card we control, or monster, I'm sorry. Tribute one monster. Said card because, you know, all we have is monsters. To reborn a Red Dragon Archfiend from our graveyard, and that will be Scarred Dragon Archfiend. Now we're going to activate Crimson Gaia and add one Red Dragon Archfiend, or one card that mentions it, from our deck or graveyard to our hand, and we're going to choose our deck because we don't have any trap protection. So let's see our options here. So if we were going second, Absolute Power Force is a good option. Red Zone is always a good option. I found myself trying to abuse this card as much as possible, so I'm going to add a Fiendish Golem. And then we can set one, and you know, you activate him, banish a card, search a Fiendish Chain, yada yada yada. But what most people would probably want to do that would help in way more scenarios, honestly, is to search Red Zone. And then we set Red Zone, and we can pass. So that is it for the video, guys. If you want to see the $100 version of this deck, I think I can make it extremely spicy, and we'll do like a lot of test hands and stuff like that like we usually do. Just let me know down below. And as always, I will see you guys next time.